Democratic Party's favorability has hit lows that we have not seen in a long, long time. And to me, it's mainly due to a part of the Democratic establishment that exists in Washington, D.C. today that, for one reason or another, seems to be sticking with the idea, even after everything we've seen in the last 10 years in American politics, sticking to the idea that there are voters out there that all they want to see is for the certain Democratic candidates to be more moderate and more conservative and to work more with MAGA and to be less progressive, and that if only the Democratic Party was more moderate, then I would finally vote for them. There probably are some voters out there that are very conservative and don't like MAGA, but also the Democratic Party is somehow too far left for them. And so they sit on the sidelines or begrudgingly vote for Trump. But the thing is that the numbers of these voters is not high enough to be pushing the Democratic Party over the edge in these very consequential elections against MAGA. And the strategy of appealing to the moderates has failed time and time again. And it's reflected in these numbers that I'm going to show you right now. So NBC News, Democratic Party hits new polling low while its voters want to fight Trump harder. Yes, they do. The Democratic Party has reached an all-time low in popularity in the latest national NBC News poll as it searches for a path forward after a painful loss to President Donald Trump. With these numbers, the Democratic Party is not in need of a rebrand. It needs to be rebooted, said Democratic pollster Jeff Horowitz of Hart Research Associates, who conducted the survey along with GOP pollster Bill McIlturf of Public Opinion Strategies. Not sure if I said that guy's name right. The slump is partially driven by fed-up Democrats, according to polling data, after they watched their party lose to Trump in 2024. And now, in a reversal from Trump's first term, self-identified Democratic voters say they want the party to hold the line on their position, even if it leads to gridlock, rather than focus on finding areas of compromise with the president. The poll illustrates the angst within the party driving backlash against the Senate Democrats, including Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer. So let's look at the numbers here. It says back in April 2017, 59% of Democrats said they wanted congressional Democrats to make compromises with Trump to gain consensus on legislation, with 33% saying they should stick to their positions, even if it means not being able to get things done in Washington. So it says just over a quarter of registered voters, 27%, said they have positive views of the party, which is the party's lowest positive rating in NBC News polling data dating back to 1990. Just 7% say their views of the Democratic Party are very positive. 7% of voters, with just 27% having a favorable view. I mean, if the Democratic Party looks at these numbers and goes, gee whiz, we're not being conservative enough. Gee whiz, we're not working with Donald Trump enough. Okay, then they don't deserve to be leaders of the Democratic Party anymore, because America doesn't agree. It simply does not agree. And the Democratic Party strategy has failed, right? It failed, unfortunately, in the campaign, and it's failing even harder now with people turning their backs on the Democratic establishment leaders while clamoring for different, new, fresh leadership that is not so ready, willing, and able to cozy up to MAGA. And if you'll look here, it says Ocasio-Cortez, in fact, leads poll of Democrats on which leader, quote, best reflects party's core values. AOC narrowly leads in a poll of Democrats on which party leader best reflects the core values of the party. In a CNN survey released Sunday, Democrats and Democratic-leaning independents were asked to name one person when thinking about Democratic leaders today who best reflects the core values of the party. The open-ended question yielded a range of responses. 10% pointed to Ocasio-Cortez, 9% said former Vice President Kamala Harris, and 8% said Bernie Sanders, independent from Vermont, and 6% said House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries. President Obama and Jasmine Crockett of Texas were each named by 4% of Democrats and Democratic-leaning independent respondents, with Chuck Schumer and Gavin Newsom, Pelosi, and Slotkin being named by 2% of respondents, respectively, each. So if we combine Schumer, Newsom, Pelosi, and Slotkin, perhaps would be described as leaning towards a bit more of the moderate wing of the party versus somebody like AOC, a Jasmine Crockett, a Bernie Sanders, who are definitively in the progressive lane. What we see here is that all of their support combined in this poll makes up for one AOC or one Bernie Sanders, right? Really illustrating the point that the people in this country, they want a party that is going to fight Trump at every single turn. And the American people have determined that Donald Trump has abandoned them and that Donald Trump is not somebody to be negotiated with as he takes his country hostage. And if numbers like that is not enough to make the Democratic establishment leaders realize, I'm not exactly sure what will. But here's an interesting tidbit here we have about as Sanders and AOC are having rallies across the whole country. We have Schumer, who is running scared from his own book tour. So Sanders, AOC holding rallies in Denver and Greenlee. Former Democratic presidential candidate Bernie Sanders will be joined by AOC in a rally in Denver and Greenlee next Friday. The duo will travel to Colorado to host rallies as part of Sanders' Fighting Oligarchy, Where Do We Go From Here tour. Sanders started the tour in Nebraska and stopped in several other states in the Midwest, including Iowa, Wisconsin, and Michigan. So as Sanders and AOC are rallying people across the country, we have Schumer here postponing his book tour due to security concerns amid anger from Democrats over government funding fights. Due to security concerns, Senator Schumer's book events are being rescheduled, representatives for Schumer said in a statement. The Democratic leadership was scheduled to appear. The Democratic leader, was scheduled to appear in Baltimore, Washington, D.C., New York City, Philadelphia, Los Angeles, and San Francisco to discuss his new book, Anti-Semitism in America, A Warning. Okay, which is something that definitely should be discussed, and it is something that it has risen in anti-Semitism. But when Schumer is pulling a move that is typically seen by Republican lawmakers in canceling public appearances, we've seen that with these GOP lawmakers being instructed to not hold town halls anymore because so many voters, pissed off voters, are showing up to demand answers about the Trump administration's platform that is having a very immediate and very visceral effect on the everyday lives of many different groups of Americans. We've seen Republican lawmakers, in fact, be instructed by the GOP to not hold these town halls anymore. And Bernie and AOC are stepping into that void, as well as Tim Walz saying, I'm going to go to the towns where these town halls are being canceled, and I'm going to speak to these Republican voters, and I'm going to say the Democratic Party platform. In a time when we have people doing that, we have Schumer running away from his book tour, too scared to even go and talk about his book. I mean, we're seeing two different wings of the party here that are still battling it out, and really we need to go with the progressive. The progressives need to take over the Democratic Party leadership, and we need to really, the Democratic Party needs to, what it needs to do is it needs to represent working people. It needs to represent people who are not rich, not part of the 1%, people who are very directly affected by Donald Trump's administration's actions. And people don't feel that the Democratic Party is not farting, is fighting hard enough. They don't feel that the party's fighting hard enough, and they are clamoring for new leadership. They want the party to go in new directions. And let's hope that the likes of Schumer and Pelosi and others hear the message, can drop this whole let's appease Donald Trump, let's work with MAGA and see what we can get out of it, because it's simply not a strategy that is working. And if the Democratic Party is going to have any relevance in the next 10, 15 years, we really, really do need to start championing the progressive talking points and the progressives that are getting those talking points and connecting with the American people in a deeply resonant way.